Hello and welcome to today's reading. I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter just because my sinuses are still a little funky and I don't want to end in another coughing fit like the last reading. So, welcome. Let's jump right in. This reading is for someone who is in a much more clear headed, logical space when it comes to what it is that they want to create. Specifically, this is someone who is, I will say, actively dealing with the kinds of, the first word that came to mind was turbulent, but the kind of just the waves of emotion as they come, you're dealing with them. And at the same time, and I channeled this, I want to say a couple readings ago, you're not letting um, feelings or, external factors influence what it is that you create and how you move anymore. You could be gaining a kind of reputation, or people could have the perspective that you are a little cold, the B word, that kind of a thing. But it's more so people who haven't taken the time to put in a similar type of care for themselves, to be honest. Maybe these are people who are lacking in boundaries, who take your I heard your newfound assertiveness. They're kind of taking it personally, or they're maybe offended by it, or again, just kind of maybe, you know, not reacting or responding positively to the changes that you were trying to make, which can be confusing because, as far as you're concerned, in the way that you see it, you're just trying to focus on yourself at this point. And maybe it's that you aren't giving as much kind of attention to the I'm just seeing people like kind of wanting to get a certain kind of reaction out of you. And this isn't always malicious, but it's just even like people that want to engage in conversation with you. If you find it to be, um, maybe your wording is a little harsh because I heard useless. If you find that conversation to be useless or pointless, or more kind of just dealing with like niceties or surface level stuff, you feel like it's kind of a waste of time. And so you're not engaging to the extent or the degree that people are used to you engaging. I feel like maybe you, like a lot of the times, you humor people when you have conversations, or there's a kind of just expectation around how much you communicate. And even in communication, in conversation with people, if you aren't reacting a certain way, it's like triggering to the people around you. They're not used to you, I guess, being so focused on yourself. You know what I mean? And what's going on here, I will talk about the past influence first, because we do have some unbalance here when it comes to a situation giving to. This is represented by the King of Wands. So I'm getting a more masculine energy, but it feels like this is someone who, almost because they've done certain things from you, expected something in return. Like, it wasn't always like an imbalance, but I feel like oftentimes the people that you find yourself engaging with maybe expect something back, like from them being, quote, good, or, just like basic stuff. Like, this is someone who kind of, I don't even, motivations doesn't feel correct, but maybe they're just not aware of them, and that's what it is. But this is just how they've kind of learned to engage with people. If they do something, they expect something back. And not to say that that's necessarily wrong all the time, right? Because you do want at least like an equal give and take with people. However, this feels a little bit more, it just feels a little bit more like their expectations are kind of like, well, I did this for you, so you should do what I say, regardless of how it makes you feel, kind of a thing. So anyway, would be something that you were very aware of. This feels like, and I mean this in the kindest way possible, it feels like there was an initial ignoring of certain red flags. I feel like you were aware that you were giving more than this person was able to give back. And also you may have been aware that, this kind of, I feel like there's like the sense of an undercurrent. No matter what this person did or said, it always kind of felt like it came with a string attached. And maybe at first you didn't understand that that's what it was. There was just something about what they were doing felt in a way performative that maybe you couldn't initially put your finger on. And then when it became more and more apparent, I think you kind of got into that space of like, you didn't want to believe that that's, I feel like this is kind of like this person has great potential for like amazing things and maybe is even charismatic. Maybe they have a lot of friends. It's that kind of a thing where like, it's not that they're some bad person or something like that, but I think that kind of the outer appearance doesn't necessarily line up. It's really interesting. I just feel like there was a certain, and maybe even you had a certain expectation of how this person would be based on how they present themselves and kind of the people around them. I feel like maybe hold them in high esteem. But again, I think there's just a level of, this is how they engage with people, like, and so if you're coming from a different place, maybe you just had a perspective that other people didn't. So at a certain point when you realized this dynamic, this is where it's moving into like, there was a denial, right? There was a not wanting to see that. And for multiple reasons, um, not wanting to kind of separate from this person. And I think ultimately you were trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're not the kind of person that would take one quality and like assign that, like entitle a person that. I think you're much more understanding than that. And this is maybe one of those scenarios where that just kind of came back to bite you a little bit because someone was showing you what they are capable of at that time. You know what I mean? Maybe you had a vision of their potential, but ultimately what they showed you, we were kind of ignoring the actual action that was taking place and what they were able to produce in some way versus what they were kind of selling. You know what I mean? Um, the subconscious influence in that too is, and I think this is getting more into maybe some type of patterns. Maybe if you look at other dynamics like in your life where the kind of hesitation around completely cutting this off, there was a sense of real loneliness in a way that felt really like upending, like it would disturb a lot in your life. Maybe you were really like tied in with this person in some way if you shared a community or something in that way. There was just this feeling of kind of like this ending would really disrupt a lot of things. Like I don't think it's just a relationship that would be able to be cut off. Like maybe you lived with this person, maybe you guys share finances, a business, even for some of you, because there was really like an on the fence kind of decision of like weighing up really like what are the losses if I choose to disconnect from this person who is unable to fulfill their end of the bargain, more or less. This does feel maybe more career related than anything, and it just feels like that kind of the sunk cost fallacy of like, oh, I've put so much into this already that so much will be lost. Ultimately, the decision that I see you, coming up against is the kind of self-fulfillment here represented by the 9 of Cups versus this almost barricading of yourself like in a way with the 9 of Wands. And what's interesting is they're connected here by the 3 of Pentacles. So I think what you're coming up against is like what you want to do with your life, with your career, involves other people. It does. There's just no way for you, there's no way to get around that. I feel like this is someone who is kind of honestly a little jaded. Maybe there's a little bit of resentment, but again, you're in the midst of like processing this and stepping more into an empowered place where again, people aren't always going to react the most positive to you prioritizing yourself, but this is a result of understanding that giving someone the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again does not put you in a productive place. Like all feelings aside, how much you want to, be there for this person or support them or whatever it is, how much potential you see in them ultimately doesn't matter because the resulting product is that you are left in like, I'm just hearing a deficit. All this really does feel more financial. However, this could also maybe just be how you would describe the relationship, that the relationships are an investment and therefore you feel like you've either wasted time, wasted your resources, maybe even wasted your money on this person. Um, with this Tower, 2 of Pentacles, 2 of Cups, it just feels like this is even, it feels a little all or nothing with you moving forward in terms of your relationships and the way that you deal with partnerships. Like partnerships as a whole, this could have really affected your like trust in people, your ability to fully kind of relinquish some kind of power over to someone else and trust that they will follow through. I feel like all of that are things that have been in one way or another presenting themselves in your relationship dynamics. And what I would just like to caution you toward is that, you know, this feeling of like being jaded, even like a little disillusionment, it feels like, with your ability to truly rely on other people. I would just like to remind you to try your best. I know it's easier said than done, but try your best to not hold future potential partners in whatever realm of your life that they, you know, enter, business or relation, you know, romantic, what have you. Please do not hold them to whatever this past person did, right? It's unfair, and you understand this on a basic level. And again, it is easier to say than do. But, you know, do not judge someone else, prejudge them before they even have the ability to show you that they are maybe a little bit more trustworthy, a little bit more reliable. Because I do see, like, moving forward, that teamwork is necessary for your self-fulfillment. I think whatever it is that you're trying to build, even when it is like a little more, a stronger sense in yourself, community is important to you. You don't want to be disconnected from people. I don't think you want to look at people and, you know, kind of expect the worst, or feel like they will just ultimately disappoint you. That's not the attitude that you want to have. So again, it's just about being a little bit more, honestly, kind of, I just feel like there's maybe some resentment and even like a blaming of yourself because these red flags, these warning signs were ignored, right? And again, because you wanted to see the best in someone, I'm feeling like someone's kind of ragging on their self, and maybe even, you know, maybe turning a little bitter towards that person, like, I should have known that you were a no good, whatever, that kind of a thing. We don't need to do that, you know. It's okay to recognize where maybe we were compromising ourselves, our morals, our boundaries, you know, the things that we have determined to be kind of deal breakers, and we overlook them for other reasons. It's okay to be aware of where we have maybe misstepped there, but you don't need to be so hard on yourself. And again, ultimately, moving forward in the way that you do, you will find partnerships and people that share your vision and are fully supportive in creating that. The oracle that I pulled is number 6, and so it's very interesting that this reading starts with the 6 of Pentacles and ends with a number 6. All about giving and receiving. And the name of this card is Receive All the Things. Let's see what it says. Flowers don't refuse the rain, and all of nature's creatures benefit from the sun without striving for its favor. You don't have to earn, prove, or produce in order to be worthy. You are worthy right now, as is. Life is give and take, and yet take got a bad rap somewhere. But it's nature's way. Just like a rose bush offers fragrance and beauty, it needs to receive all the elements in order to bloom. Ultra independence is a trauma response, and you're too lovely to live in trauma any longer. All right? There are people out there who will be able to give to you in, you know, in a similar capacity. There are people who will be more understanding of the way that you give and receive and are willing to engage in that equitably. And there are also people who, even if they aren't automatically or just naturally, you know, attuned to how you move in that way, they're willing to learn and understand so that they can have a better relationship with you. You know what I mean? So again, be kind to yourself. Don't think that this is some permanent mark on like your, I don't know, ability to discern who should and shouldn't be in your life, right? This is all a learning experience, and we're all here to help each other through that. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for being here. You know the deal. I appreciate all the button pushing, any comments that you have. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. So we'll have another upload tomorrow. Bye.